What is up, guys? We're back for another episode of the Harv podcast, the Hurdle series. Today's guest is going to be Once Upon an Allie. She's a variety Twitch streamer. We'll have a link in the description so you can go check it out. Wonderful conversation with a wonderful person. If you're a content creator that wants to sit down and maybe have this chit chat with me, please find me on social media, find me an email, whatever it works best for you, however it works best for you, and hope to hear from you. Stay tuned. And have you used any other platforms, or are you only streaming on Twitch?
I only have streamed on Twitch. I have a YouTube and I have a TikTok and a Twitter. Gotcha. And I post reels and shorts, or I have. I don't really use Instagram. I have it. People follow me on it, but I don't really utilize it.
It's a lot to keep up with.
Instagram was one of those things where, like, I had one personally and I, like, deleted some stuff and then just changed my name, and it was like, sure, good enough. And I didn't actually, like, make one for streaming. And so there's stuff back from high school. It's not very fancy, I guess. It's funny because I actually, like, part of my career outside of streaming, I do a lot of social media, but I hate doing it for myself.
But it's a lot to bounce, because I feel like almost like every day there's like another platform popped up, and like you almost have to use all of them at the same time. It's a little bit, it's more time demanding than I think people may realize at times.
Yes, but also you can reuse content a lot, and like even reposting. Like you can repost something that you posted a year ago and people aren't going to know any different unless, I don't know, like Apex, for example, like new characters come out, new maps, new, like you can see the display changes, for example. But like for the most part, you can reuse a lot of content depending on the game you're playing too, which I think is something that people might miss out on at times.
Yeah, I guess I actually didn't really think about that. Huh. So how long have you been streaming on Twitch?
November of 2020.
2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so over 3 years. Wow, awesome. So what started, and I may know a little bit of some of this, but I feel like it's more for like somebody who might be listening and watching later on. Where did the notion to just go, I'm going to start streaming, start from?
Yeah, well, my experience is definitely quite different than others. So excuse my stutter. I am very short on sleep today.
No, you're fine.
So I had a stroke on Halloween of 2020. And I, amidst the pandemic, already was immune compromised and couldn't. So I wasn't allowed to work. I didn't really have anywhere to go because I couldn't walk and couldn't drive. I lost a lot of people through that experience personally, which is a whole another story in and of itself. But I don't know, when tragedy hits, you learn who your true friends are, like regardless of what the tragedy is.
That's the truth.
So I was pretty lonely, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I needed a family, and I needed income, and I wasn't even really a gamer prior to that, which is kind of funny to say. I wasn't allowed to game growing up. I was told that it was going to make me stupid or something. But when in reality, as an adult, I know it's because my dad was like, he would have totally gotten addicted to gaming if he had a console in the house. So it was more of like a him protecting himself than anything. Gotcha. But I learned that as an adult,
Yeah.
So that being said, I never really gamed. When I was like a senior in high school, like just getting out of school, I had a boyfriend that bought me created a Steam account for me, bought me like one game of every genre, and was like, be a gamer.
He really tried then.
He did, and it didn't work. I did my thing for several years, and my now current partner, he bought me Borderlands. Okay. And I think the difference was the previous boyfriend got me games that were mostly single player. And my current boyfriend, he bought me Borderlands 2, and he was like, look, we can play this together. And so we went through the storyline, and then that was kind of like the start of me gaming. And then we played the third one, and then the pre-sequel, and then the first one, and then we got hooked on Apex, and the rest is history. Now I play a lot of the games that he does, aside from Skyrim. Haven't gotten into that one. You should see some of the stuff he's made in Ark. He has the craziest architecture brain.
Well, that's cool.
I'm getting really off your question.
No, you're fine.
But I didn't even game until, I don't know, probably less than 5 years ago. And since then, I guess I figured that I was good at it. I'm in the top 1 percentile for Apex players, and even after a stroke, I don't. But what really got me gaming after that, I had played stuff casually with him, but what really got me onto it afterwards is my neurologist actually said you should play video games.
Just for stimulation kind of?
Because I lost full function of the left side of my body, and video games can help increase your hand-eye coordination.
Okay.
So
it was almost therapeutic in a way for
right.
reality. Yeah.
So I started gaming, and I started streaming on Twitch, and it's funny because my boyfriend had actually talked about streaming prior, and then my friend Pascal, I'll give him a little plug there. Pascal Amuse. He's the person that really is the reason why I even got on Twitch in the first place. We've been friends since mid-high school. He is the biggest light of anybody, and if you haven't met him, I've
caught some of his streams a couple times. He's he incredibly upbeat guy.
He is just so loving to everyone.
Yeah,
and I don't know, hanging out in his streams is like a warm hug, I guess. And that's
he's a good dude.
That was the other thing. So my boyfriend had talked about streaming, but the reason why he didn't is he said he thought it would take the fun out of it. He is an absurdly good Call of Duty player. I don't know if you played Call of Duty, but there was one game. Yeah. His best is he went 117 and 11.
Really?
On mouse and key. Wow. He's insane. If I didn't know any better, I would accuse him of cheating. But so it was Pascal, my boyfriend, that really, because he had thought about doing it, but then didn't want to take the fun out of it. And then I ended up starting, mostly because of Pass, but I didn't really know much about it. But he taught me a lot. He helped set things up for me and kind of put me on my way, I guess, to start. And I really started primarily streaming Apex, and then dabbling in other stuff. At one point, I went to Variety, and I lost a lot of people, but I think it was good for me because I realized that a lot of people were there more for the game than for me.
Yeah, I hear that.
And I had trouble playing Apex. I mean, primarily because something that makes me stand out, I feel with other people, is I'm very chat oriented. And it's really important for me to reply to people fairly promptly because I don't want to lose people's interest. And playing a first-person shooter is really hard, especially ranked and stuff, to delegate both. Right, as a normal person, let alone someone with a brain injury.
For sure, yeah.
So that happened. And so I switched to Variety, and I did Toonie Tuesdays, so Toontown Tuesdays. Survival Wednesdays, where I would play Ark and Don't Starve together, and then Thursdays were Thief and Thursday, where I'd play Sea of Thieves, and then Friday was Fraggin' Friday, and that would be Apex. And at the time, I was working part-time, so I was running a business prior to my stroke, started that back up slowly, but you lose most of your clients when you're in recovery for a long period of time, so it was really starting from scratch, building my business again, too.
Wow.
So that went fine until the business brain of me looked at my numbers and realized the majority of my views and were coming from Thursdays, which were playing Sea of Thieves. And so I did exactly what I said I didn't want to do, and I started maining a game. And I started maining Sea of Thieves. And the irony of this is Pascal just texted me. I'm not reading that. That's very long. But he was just like, I hope you're doing well. That's so funny. He could probably feel his ears tingling or something. That's
probably, yeah. Ears
like,
were burning. He's like,
yeah,
what's up?
exactly. That's so funny.
So you switched completely to the main game. Yeah.
And I started maining Sea of Thieves, and I just kind of stopped dabbling in other stuff.
I feel like that can burn you out like super easy though.
It did.
Yeah.
And I played it for almost a year. Like I mained it for a while. And I'm in this weird transition phase right now. So I've only streamed a couple times in the last like month and a half. Partially health related, partially like work-life balance related, but then partially because I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now. Because of Sea of Thieves and where it's at. And
yeah, I feel like that's so you mean like the state of the game itself?
Here, let me pull this up so I don't butcher. Yes and no. So yes, the state of the game, but also the state of the community.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And the state of the development. So I guess I can speak on this briefly. I don't know if this is beneficial or interesting to you at all.
No, bring it on.
But I love Sea of Thieves. Like I really do. It's a beautiful game. It's very unique. Like there are a bunch of pirate games, especially multiplayer. That is the only multiplayer pirate game. Like it is a big niche, and they did a great job with it. Like honestly, it's beautiful. But there are a lot of bugs, and once you play it and become like, I don't know, like get to the point where you play it somewhat competitively, if that's how you choose. Yeah. It gets really frustrating. Like that's the first part because like, for example, the game's been out for like 5-ish years.
Pretty long time.
And, yeah. And hit registration is still 50-50, you know, like it's really bad. Like you can become an insider, which is like you get to test out stuff ahead of time.
Like beta testing, basically.
You sign an NDA, and when you're on Insider, you get the opportunity to create private servers. And so sometimes like Phoenix and I would create a private server and practicing fighting each other and stuff like that. And we would just test, like just shooting each other. I know that sounds weird, but we just point blank stand in front of each other, you know, shove a shotgun down each other's face, and it would do 10% damage out of 100 when it should do 100 damage when you're standing point blank in front of someone with a shotgun, you know. And we would just test it out to see how bad it is, and it's pretty bad. But it's not just that. Like it's food registration. Like I'll eat the same piece of meat 3 times and then finally heal from it, you know. And there's just like there's a lot of just development bugs that haven't been worked out, and for how long the game's been out, you would think that they'd have that more down pat.
Yeah, that's super frustrating. I agree. I think when you're sitting on it for that long, and especially if it's something that you enjoy, right? Like I was kind of that way with Ark to a degree. I haven't picked that game up in a while, but it is frustrating because you really love it and really enjoy it, and you want to see it go forward. And especially when they're giving you the avenue to test things out, and you're like, hey, the stuff that's broken has been broken for years, and you're still not doing anything about it. That's
absolutely.
It kind of makes you feel like, are you even listening, or is this just going kind of like a lip service thing that you're having me be a part of?
Right. And so instead, they're, you know, taking out things that increase the skill gap in the game. Which is their choice,
right?
You know, but like quick swapping weapons, for example, they're removing. You have the option to wield 2 weapons, which is a sword, a pistol, a shotgun, and a sniper, and you can pick 2 of any of them, but not 2 of the same weapon. So if you use 2 guns, you're considered sweaty, and it's considered double gunning if you don't have a sword on you. And because every weapon only has 5 bullets, there's no skill gap there. It's just if you hit them, you hit them, right? And a sword, you can just keep swinging. So, like, considering you're giving yourself 10 shots to win whatever you're fighting, it's harder, you know.
Makes sense.
Especially with hit registration.
Yeah, especially if the hit registration's that bad. Yeah, it makes it even worse.
So
kind of a gamble.
Absolutely, but there are certain ways where you can X cancel and you can switch your weapon faster to increase your chances of winning a fight, and it's harder to do. Primarily for mouse and keyboard players. You can't really do it easily on controller. But like they're removing that. And a lot of the player base is just like, why? Like, why? Or they're removing alternative ways to board a boat. Like before, if the waves were heavy, you could board from the harpoon on the front of the ship if you get the right angle, and they're focusing on all these little things that nobody's really complaining about, I guess.
Yeah, it seems kind of odd.
Because they're easier fixes and they're considering them, they're calling them exploits because they weren't intended to be in the game, which is fine. People always are going to find other ways to play a game when you make a sandbox game.
Yeah,
that's sure. Just what it is.
Definitely, yeah.
So, like, that's the first part, is just how frustrating encounters like that get over time. And then the other part is, another piece of it is they brought in a PvP on-demand mode, which is called Hourglass. You can vote for Athena or Reaper, and that's kind of like the good versus evil mindset. And you dive underwater, you spawn up on a boat with the same quantity of players and same size, and you fight them. You're put in basically a ring on the map, and you're stuck in there until someone wins the battle, and then they get to free roam that map again. And you can get streaks and you can get awards and like different cosmetics and whatever. Okay. Since they have added that, the cheating has gone up exponentially.
Oh wow, really?
And there's no anti-cheat. And it's been 2 seasons now, and they haven't really talked about anything that they're going to do about it. Like, I was surprised. I know this probably is bad for me as a content creator to say, but I looked it up. I was curious. I was split-billing with a friend about Apex cheats, actually. And I just Googled it. I was just curious, right? Yeah. And I clicked Apex cheats, which is a pretty popular FPS game, just to see how much money people were actually spending on things like this. And on one of the recommended things, one of the top things, like next to Call of Duty, was Sea of Thieves.
Really?
So this isn't...
Wow.
Like, this isn't a new thing. Like, people... And the cheats are crazy. Like, it's not just aimbot.
Clearly, this has been around for a while.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Like, and it's not just aimbot. It's like insta-death. It's like self-revive. Like, it's crazy shit. Sorry, am I allowed to cuss? This is
I don't care. You say whatever you want.
I don't want to demonetize you.
I don't monetize my videos on YouTube anymore.
Oh, okay. Well then, I guess you did say that in that change video.
Yep. Fuck them. I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not monetizing anything anymore on there. If they want to get money out of me, then they need to come talk to me.
Valid. So yeah, that's another problem. There's a lot of cheaters, and there's a streamer. Her name's Kelly Schmo. She's a doll. She said it best on Twitter. She said, "Cheaters nuked the game for me. I've started to feel sus of every sweaty fight I'm in, and it made me feel like a loser. I miss enjoying the game and not having post-traumatic sus disorder." And that's exactly how I feel. It's like every really good fight, like you don't know.
Is it really fair? Is it really? Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's
makes
trash,
it really
man. That sucks.
hard to enjoy that. So like that's the fundamental piece. But then comes their partner program. I feel like anytime you really grind a game that has some sort of program, that's the goal, right? Yeah. You want to be partnered with the game. You want to get the perks. Like for Sea of Thieves, you get drops. Like that's your goal when you stream a game. And their requirements are pretty crazy. I don't know, like in comparison to the requirements versus the perks, it's pretty nuts.
So it's requirements to be like a partner with the game specifically?
With them, yes.
Okay.
So being a partner grants you Twitch drops and giveaways. There are certain, they'll like create a ship set. Since the game's primarily cosmetic based, they'll create a ship set that's like for partners to give away. And they get like one a month. And that's helps boost their numbers. And if you don't stream on Twitch, that they can give it away through their YouTube or their social media or whatever. And so they have their partner program and their variety creators. So like partner is for Twitch specifically and variety is for any other social platform. So for their partner program, they split it between English speaking creators and non-English speaking, which is kind of interesting to
weird.
me. But I think it's just because the majority of their creators are English, so they make it easier for you if you don't speak English. I don't know. I don't need to get into that. But it just feels kind of off. But
it does feel off for sure, yeah.
For English-speaking creators, you have to stream 15 hours of the game a month. Reasonable.
Okay, yeah.
Have 10,000 viewed hours per month.
Per month?
Per month. Be professional and interactive. Reasonable. Okay. For YouTube, 20,000 subs. 3,000 daily average viewers. Regular uploads, judged on case-by-case basis. TikTok, 20K followers. 15K average views per month. Regular uploads, judged on case-by-case.
And what are the real rewards for following this criteria and being part of this? Like, I mean,
yes. So you get Twitch drops.
So
whenever
things
they
to
do
give
them.
to other people, essentially.
Correct. That's it.
Yeah.
Only things to give other people. And then they write a little cute blurb about you on their website. And sometimes they'll throw you out on Twitter. So
it's absolutely no. That's
right.
crazy. No.
And that's the goal. You stream Sea of Thieves. That is your goal, to be a partner.
God.
And
oh, man, that's how you get people to be really dedicated to your game and then get tired of it and walk away from it. Like that's such a horrible business model.
And that's happening.
Such a shitty business model.
But the thing is, all of this is judged by case basis, right? Yeah. And I don't want to throw out a bunch of names, but there was a creator that streamed on Tuesdays and Thursdays evenings. She has for years. Great gal, super lovely. They personally reached out to her and invited her to their program because they really liked how unique she was and what she had to offer, even though she didn't meet their criteria.
Okay. So she was an exception in that particular scenario.
Right. And then they dropped her last month because she didn't meet their criterias.
I mean, how many of these people do they really have that are meeting this criteria? This is insane. I mean,
the majority of people that I watch that I know personally that are streaming SOT do not make the criteria regularly. And they are at risk of losing it whenever they want, right?
Well, it's just a weird idea because if you're setting the expectation that high, there's only a certain number of people that are going to try to get to that level. And at some point, all of those people are now competing against one another to meet this criteria that's been set. It's like, It's this weird, it doesn't make very much sense. I don't think anybody thought this one through.
Right. And so,
oh man.
That's a thing. Okay, so they have it on Microsoft and Steam, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft doesn't share their numbers.
Big surprise there.
As of May, as of May, SOT was averaging 12,000 players per month on Steam.
Okay. 12,000, so just 12,000 players a month. Okay. But is there any way to tell how many of these people were in this partnership?
No. They're expecting 10,000 viewers per month for these partners.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
12,000 people playing the game.
Oh boy. So
on Steam, they have it on Microsoft. Weird. So I know that that's not all of the player base, but even if it was quadruple, they have like, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 or more
That's insane.
partners.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it just seems like they're going down the wrong lane of clearly they didn't want to spend the time to fix what appears to be very important things with the game. So instead, they do all this other stuff to try. It's almost like path of least resistance sort of mentality. But then it doesn't, it kind of falls apart on itself when they make these crazy expectations for people.
Right. And so instead of listening to all of that, they released something new. The Partner Legend program.
Oh, God.
Which is better than the partner program. I don't know how much better because I have no idea what additional things they offer. I'm sure that's great. But that makes the partners work even harder because then they get a fancy little logo they can put on their Twitch page to show how awesome they are. So in the last 30 days on Steam, the game averaged 8,775 players.
Wow. So it's, yeah, wow. So with all of this, with all of that going on, is that what kind of, I don't know exactly how I want to word this. So is that why is that one of the, I mean, obviously it's one of the reasons why you've taken a break from streaming, but do you find that it was easier and more fun when you were doing the variety thing, or did you really think that like the main game was a better course? Like what was the mentality when you made that decision of going from variety to main game?
I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was thinking they like watching me play Sea of Thieves, so I'm going to play Sea of Thieves. I wasn't thinking I'm going to go away from variety and go to single player, go to one game. Yeah. I was thinking the numbers are good here, so that's what I'm going to do.
Gotcha. So you followed what you thought your community was avidly more interested in?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think one more thing to mention in that game without losing.
No, you're fine.
Without, just because I was looking at notes of a post that I had made about it, was the other thing is Sea of Thieves makes a really big note to actually like respond to reports, which is awesome. Well, and that's good. One thing that I loved about the game was that like if someone says something not good, like obviously there's a difference between just like calling someone a bitch versus, you know, telling someone to end their life. Like, right, you know, there's a very, and I could care less if someone, you know, is just talking smack, but like there are certain things that I have no problem in clipping and sending them in. Like I had someone, I stole their chicken and they told me that they hope I got assaulted. Like, yeah, I'm gonna send that in. Yeah, they lost their account. But like
that's a good, in their defense, that's a really good thing though, to kind of keep the community as clean as they can.
Yeah, except for that only counts if you're not a Sea of Thieves partner.
So if you do these things and you are a partner, it doesn't really.
So there's been a couple of partners that have said things that I think are very, very much not okay. And like one of which said like some homophobic slurs, and they're still a big part of the community. And I mean, I don't know. That's not just it. Like there's plenty more of things that people have said that it's just like I don't want to be a part of something that feels so hypocritical.
Sure, for sure. Yeah. And it doesn't, I mean, that kind of applies everywhere though, especially when you're talking about the internet, right? Like, I mean, how many times does somebody on Twitch or somebody on YouTube or somebody somewhere else break one of their TOSs that would get everyday Joe Schmo banned from the place, but because they have a bigger audience, then they those rules don't apply to them.
Absolutely.
So it's super frustrating to see that crap. Like I really wish people would be, especially businesses, would be a little bit more consistent, because then when they send the message of we're not going to tolerate this sort of behavior, I think that's genuinely a good thing to do. But Absolutely. What they're really saying is we're not going to tolerate this behavior from people that aren't making us money or giving us attention.
Well, and it works both ways, but it's like if you're going to have integrity.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Like don't if you're going to half-ass it, you're not actually doing that.
Yeah, stick to your convictions, really. Yeah.
If you look at that, Call of Duty actually did the exact opposite though recently with the Nick Merckx thing. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard briefly what, because he had a skin made for him and then said something about what was going on in the community, I believe, where his kid goes to school or something like that.
No, he
No.
recently had a kid, which is why he spoke up about it.
Oh, that's what it was.
There,
That's what it was. Sorry.
yeah. So, I mean, long story short, there are grown adult people having brawls outside of a school over the fact of if the school should recognize Pride or not.
You're right. Yeah.
Even though Pride Month happens during the summer, so when that would be even for like summer school, I don't know.
Yeah.
Regardless, he commented saying, "Let's just let kids be kids." And that was what lost him his partnered skin with COD. And
That's
a lot of people
bullshit.
It's hard because I can see how that comment could be hurtful to people. I don't necessarily think it was intended that way, but I think that it was spoken out of privilege of not knowing, or maybe like, I don't know. My thing is, the whole thing that I said is I could care less about what any straight person has to say about it. If it's hurtful towards people that it's actually about, then that's what I want to hear it from. Like,
I guess I'm not sure why his opinion, because I think I remember watching a clip about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why it was. I mean, I get it because he's on the internet and everybody knows who he is, but to a degree, I'm kind of like, why is that the voice that everybody's concerned with?
See, and in my head, my problem was, okay, so they're going to take his skin and do whatever. But how many people are calling other people slurs on a minute basis in this game and no one's doing anything about it?
Ain't that the truth?
On a second basis, probably once a second, if not
there's
more.
Probably like 50 times worse said on a millisecond basis in that game.
Right. But they're trying to make themselves look good and stand a point.
Yeah.
But they're not having integrity with the rest of their game.
Yeah, it seems really kind of a half measure.
And that's kind of dumb in so many games that it's so frustrating, and it's like, do you want to be a part of a game that's smaller, that has integrity, that you're less likely to grow in? Or do you want to be a ant in a larger game and do your best to make whatever difference that you potentially could?
Yeah, that's hard. That's a hard decision.
For me, it just got exhausting.
I bet it did. Plus, you were streaming what, like 4 days a week?
I was at 3 for when I was primarily
3 days a week.
Yeah. But I've also been working 4 10-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm off 3 days, but one day I take care of the house, one day is with my partner, and then one day is to take care of myself, basically.
Mm-hmm. You have to.
So and it goes back to your video about change of you don't want to talk about the money, but it is a part of the conversation.
If you're trying to make a career out of it, it absolutely is. Yeah.
And just how I was raised and just how, I don't know, the majority of the things in my life that I do and spend time on are either to, I don't know, take care of myself and my body or to make money. And exercise and
time is valuable.
Absolutely.
That's the simplest form. Time is valuable. And so if you're investing your time into something, you're hoping that there's going to be, or at least you have the expectation or the goal rather, to have a certain reward for doing that. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's health, sometimes it's relationships. It doesn't matter, but there's still an investment that's there. So when you feel like you're in the red versus the green, yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, really, especially if it's something
Yeah.
that you enjoy doing.
Right. And I enjoy it, but like I need to find a way right now that it's beneficial, that it's worth my time. And I know that might sound kind of selfish, but sometimes you have to be.
Mhm.
And, you know, I started streaming when I had a lot of free time. And I don't right now. Like, I
Yeah.
have maybe an hour, hour and a half in the evenings at most on
Mhm.
work days. And I have a house to take care of, and I have a me to take care of.
Yeah, for sure.
And also I'm dealing with health stuff, which makes it that much harder. I mean, I have chronic illness and I have, you know, chronic pain and a lot of other things that make things more challenging to just function as a normal adult anyways.
Mm.
And if I were to just play what I enjoyed when I was playing it and just streamed it, I would love to, but I don't have a system that works well enough to do that right now.
Well, even then, it sometimes can be, again, kind of going back to like the investment of taking place. Because I used to hear that too. Like, we'll just stream the games that you want to play and don't worry about it. I'm like, I don't think y'all understand how that works. Like,
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, if I'm trying to do this or if I'm trying to turn it into a career, then I want to be able to do certain things for an audience. So, yeah, that's even some balance there.
Absolutely.
It's hard answer. It's definitely hard to answer 100% because it changes depending on who you are too. So,
Well, and I mean, I got the least burned out when I was doing variety.
oh, bad, yeah.
But then the schedule makes it feel so forced, and it's hard.
Were there days where you were just like, I don't really want to turn this stream button on, like, at all? And if so, like, how did you like kind of strong through that?
A lot of people talking about having trouble pressing that button. I can't say that that's ever really been a big challenge for me. I think because I am so business oriented, the most trouble I've had with pressing that button per se is when I haven't been on in a while, because I feel guilty even though I shouldn't. I do.
I can identify with that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel a sense of like, hi, I'm alive. Sorry. You know?
Well, especially if you get a good schedule and a routine down, you feel like you might be letting people down by not being as present to a degree.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
understand that.
hard. I mean, everyone knows that, like, right now I'm just trying to deal with my health, and I'll be on when I can and when I have the ability to. But it's still hard. It's really hard to. Good.
I was just going to ask, were there certain things that maybe popped up during your journey with streaming that you didn't necessarily foresee happening in the beginning? Like certain things that just popped up that you just were like, I was not prepared for this?
The hardest thing for me, streaming wise, is making audio fucking sound good.
Oh God, yes, we are two peas in the pod then, because I have the same damn problem.
Like, it'll sound good, and then you do an update, and then the next day it's like you're starting from scratch. Like, it's so frustrating to have good audio, and like getting a good mic is like literally only a third of it.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I still struggle with it to try to figure out what sounds right and what doesn't sound right. And you're right, after an update, everything resets, everything has to change. But it's so important because that's like, I feel like the audio is the most important part. That's really what pulls people in and draws people in, you know? That could, I didn't realize just how important that was, really. I know I didn't.
Another thing is like the challenge of if you use a face cam or not, that I think a lot of people don't think about. I mean, I had a friend that streamed every single day for like over a year before he got affiliated on Twitch because he didn't use a camera. And for me, I'm very grateful because I had friends that were around to support me, but I was affiliated in like a month, which
Wow,
I
good.
know is really quick in
Yeah.
comparison to some people. But I mean, if you want to grow quickly, you should probably have a face cam on or something like a VTube or
Yeah.
avatar that's like moves, your mouth moves at the same time, like
Mm,
something that people can look at and feel engaged with.
for
Because
sure.
if you don't, it's a lot harder from what I've seen.
Definitely. I think if you're just doing like videos and you're not doing live stream, it's probably different to a degree. Like I still think it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of important, but if you're live streaming wholehearted, yeah, I agree. Because it's so because you're there with that person. At least that's usually the mentality. You're not necessarily there with that game. You're there with that person, so you can see. You know, it's much easier to feel connected to somebody in that regard.
Absolutely. And I guess another thing that I wasn't prepared for or didn't really think about was just the etiquette that's expected on each platform is different.
It is.
And you can like really upset someone on accident if you don't realize that etiquette. And some people are a lot stricter about it than others. The first thing that comes to my mind is self-promotion.
Hmm.
You can go into a stream and just casually have a conversation, and if the streamer says like something that they're struggling with that has to do with streaming, and you're like, oh yeah, I get that, me too, they might ban you.
Really? Just for that?
Absolutely. Yeah, for just like saying like, oh, I can relate to this when they're talking about something stream related. People will ban you because you're admitting that you stream, therefore you're self-promoting.
That's
Which
so
is
much.
absurd, but it
Yeah.
happens. And
Especially on
like,
like Twitch, like I don't know if it's still that way but for the longest time, the like if you looked at the analytics of Twitch, the majority of people on there were streaming. Like
it's true. It is true. Absolutely. But
uh,
like people find it very rude sometimes if you mention that you stream in their stream. For me personally, if they're part of the community, I want to know what they're doing. Like I'm curious, like their friends, their family, like I want to know
mm,
what's going on in their lives. If you're a stranger and you just like go into someone's chat and you're like, "Hey, follow me. Here's the link." Like, no, that's rude. Like don't be an asshole. You know better regardless
yeah.
of if you're new to Twitch or not. Like
Yeah.
that's not cool.
And it's so weird that that applies there, but like nowhere else, right? Like if I
Right.
was like car salesman and went to another car dealership to buy a car and I told them that I had a car dealership, they wouldn't kick me out.
Right.
Like
Exactly. And it's just so weird, and that was something that I didn't understand. And like someone can say no self-promotion, but it means vastly different things. I mean, I was in a chat once and I saw and they had a rule that was like don't mention any other streamer. Like not even no self-promotion, but like don't talk about other creators. And I was just like, what god complex do you have?
really, like, are they so worried that somebody's gonna walk into their stream and then leave and go somewhere else just because somebody said something in chat? I think
Right.
if you're that worried about what you're that worried about how the chat could go, you should probably reanalyze what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and then, some people are just rude and don't think about it too. Of like, okay, I'm going to go to this other stream now. Like, bye. Or like, people are just strange. I don't know. I guess it's different if you're friends with them. Like, I'll have someone that has been in my chat that's just like, oh, so and so's live. I'm going to go say hi. I'll be back. Like, that doesn't bother me. But like, I have a friend who was a Sea of Thieves partner who I was in their chat and someone was like, oh, this other Sea of Thieves partner just went live. See you later. Like that's just weird. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No,
I feel like
I think so too. There should be how do I best word this? I think it's just self-awareness that sometimes viewership isn't necessarily paying attention to.
yeah, I guess that's true.
But I also think that, especially for somebody who says like, don't mention any other streamer in the chat. I mean, I think that they're a little more worried about what people are going to say in chat versus what they're actually doing. I
True.
don't. That's so strange to me. I don't know how. I probably just never go watch them again. To be honest with you, if they told me, even if I had no intention on talking about anybody else, like that would be like an immediate red flag to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And like for me, I don't have that rule.
No,
I
you've always
mean,
been incredibly supportive of anybody. At least the streams I've seen, you've always
yeah,
been
I
a
feel like it's just a common respect thing. Like
yeah.
in my opinion, like don't be weird and don't be an asshole. I don't know. Like I feel like it should be a lot simpler than others. I will say though, my friend Virax has the best Twitch rules I've ever seen ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really want to just steal these, but I don't want to be rude. That's another thing. Taking I didn't realize was like the difference between like taking an idea, if that's okay or not. Like if you see something and it's really cool that someone does, whether it's a command or like an overlay or something, like some people are flattered and some people are offended.
They're offended by it?
Yeah, like, oh, you took my idea, that's my idea. Like,
yeah.
That's another weird one.
That definitely seems weird, especially like there's so many streamers and content creators. Like it's almost hard not to a degree end up emulating something at some point.
Yeah.
That's
So Virax, his rules are no racism, bigotry, ableism, harassment, doxing, aka don't be a knucklehead. Backstating is allowed, but I may ignore you. No blatant self-promotion. Don't promote random people. I'm not interested in Twitch or community drama. I will delete, timeout, or ban messages or people at my discretion if I don't like what you say. And then good luck if you piss off Jazz. That's his wife. I cannot help you, and I will not help you. She has the same authority as I.
I like that. Yeah, I've always walked into it just don't be a dick. Like just have a little bit of self-awareness as to what you're doing and how you're acting. Like, and I don't know, maybe it's people. I'd be curious to know how many people have like maybe like social anxiety or social issues, and maybe they're a part of that community and streaming and watching other content for that reason. But at the same time, you got to work on yourself a little bit.
True. And I think it's a balance that
it is.
Some people might struggle with. I feel like maybe one business model would just be like Twitch 101, like just like for streamers and then for viewers.
For sure, yeah. I also think that a lot of these TOS, like term of service from like, and it doesn't matter which one because they're all the same. Like when you read the TOS, and what I mean to say is that they're the same in regards that a lot of times there's no clear cut yes, no, this is what passes and this is what doesn't. It's this weird, organic, subject to opinion sort of thing. And it makes it incredibly confusing where the line is and where it's not.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that was something that like took me some time to get the hang of, just like starting using Twitch as a platform in general. Because networking is awkward. Like you mentioned the car salesman example, and it's absolutely true. Like people would go to networking events, and you know, like in real life, you go to a networking event, you tell people what you do and what you're about, you give them your card, you're like, hey, maybe we can connect and do something or do a trade or something, you know, and you can't do that on Twitch without people getting weird about it. So like on Twitch, you have to be in someone's chat enough that they recognize you and then maybe say like, hey, let's get together sometime. And then you DM them and like, you know, have conversations with them. And then at some point you're like, oh, maybe we could do a collab. Like it's a lot more intense to get, unless the content creator offers it up themselves. But like if you want to be a part of someone's content, like there's a lot more, and I don't want to say work because usually if you're wanting to be involved with someone, you like them as a person, you know, and if you're doing that for other reasons, then you probably shouldn't be anyways. But like it's a lot more awkward and there's a lot more like, I don't know, intuitiveness and like putting feelers out and like for like Sea of Thieves, like maybe instead of like talking about the fact that you should stream or that you stream too, you'd be like, let's hop on a boat sometime, you know?
Yeah.
Or,
You gotta
oh,
like
I love your
this
vibes. I'd love
weird
to catch
small
a
talk.
sail.
Yeah.
And it's awkward. But like, that's what you do to not potentially offend someone, you know?
But do you think maybe it's because maybe the person that's being approached is also kind of dancing around the TOS though? Like,
Probably.
yeah, they're probably like
Absolutely.
kind of nervous. Like if I associate with this person, they may seem great, but are they going to get me in trouble? Sort of thing. Potentially.
Not necessarily. Like for me, unless I really, really know someone, I always will say, let's play off stream before I stream with them.
Smart. That's smart. Yeah.
Because not only are they going to get me in trouble, but are the vibes there? Is this enjoyable? One of the most like eye-opening experiences that I've ever had streaming was when a friend of mine, who was a friend prior to streaming, DM'd me and was like, I really don't like the vibes when you play this game with this person. And I was like, maybe I should reevaluate that friendship if that's what's being put across when I'm playing with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't talk to them anymore.
Wow.
But
okay.
You know, paying attention to how you interact with people and how that's portrayed was definitely something that I didn't think about before that. It was interesting.
For sure. Yeah. I like the idea of like that's actually really smart to have that interaction like beforehand without streaming, without a big audience, to know ahead of time whether or not that's going to be helpful or not.
And it's sorry.
Well, just because collaborations seem very especially as far as discoverability goes, it very much seems like collaboration is a huge part of that within all these platforms lately. Probably within the last few years, I think that's probably gotten even more important because of it being so heavily saturated. You have to find these little ways to kind of get out from under in a lot of ways. So collaboration ends up being a pretty important role in that. But you got to be careful about who you're collaborating with. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a great way to make friends and to, you know, get the feel of other people and what they're doing. And it's also a great way to weed out the shitters. Like if you're like, hey, you want, and if you stream any game that has more than one person that can play in the game, you're going to eventually get someone in your chat. Can I play with you?
Oh, yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And the simplest response is, I don't play with people on stream that I don't I don't know personally, because I want to make sure the vibes are there. So if you want, DM me. We'll set up a time to play off stream to see if it's a good fit, and then we'll go from there. Easy.
Yeah. No,
because they never message you.
No, they don't.
I mean, it happens very rarely, and I mean, it has worked out. But like for the most part, they're like, "Oh, that's a lot. I just thought you were gonna say yes or no." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like that's such an awkward question. That could be another series: how to respond to all the awkward questions that you get asked. Because there's so many of them.
Yeah, I agree though. There has definitely been people where they've jumped in my chat and they were like, "Hey, can I play with whatever?" Usually it was Arc, but they were like, "Can I jump in and play with you?" And I'm like, "Listen, you just find us in Discord. You can jump on our community server, but I'm doing my own thing for a little while." And I would just kind of put it off, and I would say, "Well, just message me or something like that." And you're right, I'd never hear from them.
No, because they want an easy yes or no.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like just a random person. You full? Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Always.
Plus, you don't know who's being a troll and who isn't. Like, you have no idea. Like, it could be somebody with the sole agenda of coming in there and being a troll. It's hard to know.
Ooh, that's another one. People that don't. If I were to give someone like one piece of advice for streaming, it would be like, if someone doesn't fit your core values, don't keep them just to keep the view. Just get rid of them. They literally don't matter. Like, just ban. I don't care if you're streaming to one person. If that one person comes in and they're being a shitter, just ban them.
Yeah, it's just going to kill you long term.
It is. And like, I think that I see people doing that all the time of like, oh, I can't afford to lose a viewer. And I'm like, you can't afford to keep that one.
Yeah, and is that one viewer really the one it's really going to catapult you into stardom? Like, probably
Right.
not.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and it's off-putting to people that want to be there
For
too.
sure. Yeah. It's
Like,
kind of like going to a party and like seeing the host and somebody else like interacting like awkwardly or like and they're not on the same key. You're gonna be like, you're gonna make up an excuse. You're gonna be like, well, look at the time. I gotta go. Like, see ya.
right. Well, and I immediately thought about a Just Chatting streamer that I had been in their chat before. I've enjoyed their content, and they just talk and listen to music and just hang out. And they had someone come into their chat that was like calling them not nice names, and um like we're calling them overweight and just like being very unkind, and like they banned them, and so they made another account and they came back and they were like, look who's back, and they started talking crap. And so the streamer kind of like accepted that they were potentially going to make new accounts, and so they just kind of like bantered back with them and just like accepted it, and told them thanks for the content and all of this. And like those people want the attention.
Absolutely.
And when you give it to them, it makes them continue.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up leaving because I was like, this is boring. I don't want to watch you banter with someone that's just trying to hurt your feelings. Like, this isn't fun for me. And I left. But like, if someone makes a new account, ban that one too. Like, just keep banning them. It doesn't matter. They'll get bored eventually. Like, that's
It helps having mods in that particular situation too.
very true. That's a big thing too. Having someone that you trust to help keep an eye, because it is hard when you don't have mods and you feel responsible for doing that piece solely by yourself.
Yeah. You're trying to manage chat, interact with chat, play the game at the same time. Yeah, it's a lot to take on. There's you have to have a multitasking like personality to be able to handle that, or else you're just going to get like super overwhelmed.
True.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. That's just a big like off-putting thing for me is when I see, because I want to watch people that have boundaries. Like, I want to watch people that have like an idea of what they want in their stream and they stick to it. Like the people that are flexible based on who they are, just like the companies and game developers that are flexible based on who they are. I don't really want anything to do with that.
Yeah, I think that in that point, you just have to stick by your convictions, regardless of what you think might be at stake. I think at that point, and when you're able to do that, the people that are really going to stick around long term and hang out with you are going to be able to see that for sure. Like, I've had people come into my chat during a stream and act like an asshat, and I will throw it back in their face. Like, I don't care who says what to me about it. I'll throw it back at them, And oddly enough, sometimes you get somebody who they cool off once you do throw it back at them. Like, they'll cool off and be like, oh shit, my bad, and then calm down. But then other times, yeah, you got to sit there and ban the same person 57 times because they won't stop. Yeah.
And I mean, I remember there was someone, let's see if I can find it. Someone that was being really toxic in Sea of Thieves. And I called them out on it, and I told them that I clipped it, and that I was reporting them, and I was going to turn it in, and they were probably going to get banned because Sea of Thieves doesn't joke around with that. And they replied actually apologizing. Like, they took some time, they thought about it. I don't see it. I don't know. I don't remember. It was a while ago, but
sometimes people need that though, because they've been acting that way for God knows how long with no repercussions. So sometimes you just need somebody to go, hey, pay attention to what the hell you're doing.
Yeah. And I mean, if someone's just talking smack, I'll throw it back. But if someone's being like truly hateful,
there's definitely a difference. Yeah.
And I feel like that's a difference that a lot of people don't fully see, of like the difference between just talking smack versus actually like being hateful. And like, I don't know, people have some weird idea that like, because it's the internet, like it doesn't matter. or like because they're hiding behind a screen. But like, fun fact, if you didn't know this, if you tell someone to kill themselves and they actually do, even if it's over the internet, if they can find that, you could go to jail.
Yeah.
And like, people don't think about that.
Nope, I sure don't. I think it's people just, it's people getting behind a keyboard and not thinking about what they're doing before they do it. Or they think that there's no repercussions for their actions simply because it's on the internet. And I don't, especially the way the world has evolved over the last, 10, 15 years, like that's not going to fly anymore. It's really not.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and I personally feel convicted to call people out, like, in the sense of at least saying, like, telling them that it's wrong. Like, yeah. I don't let it hurt my feelings, and I don't mull over it and, let it, keep me up at night. But I have no problem with, just saying, like, that's not cool. Like, I'm going to report you. And, like, I don't know.
So with your
like, here, this is a perfect example. I don't know who this was, but I DM'd them saying, this is a random person. It's completely unacceptable to yell profanities at a child. This is a video game. Be aware of your audience and that not everyone on the seas is an adult. You have an influence on everyone you run into in real life, but also in video games. It's unattractive to be toxic, and I hope you learn some manners.
Hey, and you didn't say anything particularly aggressive. You just called it what it was. Like,
yeah. It happens a lot. And I think that's part of what maybe drew people to watching me playing SOT 2 is because of how I handled that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And especially not letting it fly, because there's a lot of people that are just kind of like, and they kind of sort of laugh it off.
Right. And I mean, you got to know your audience. There are plenty of times, like if I was getting sniped or something, I just leave because I'm not going to give those people attention. And like, I just cut my losses and find a new server because, like, there are people that are just being hateful because they're mad and they're having a hard life. And there's people that are intentionally going to try to ruin your day. And you have to have thick skin to an extent if you're going to be any kind of creator, because someone's going to say something.
Definitely. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that one. I think a thick skin is mandatory for a lot of reasons. And to your degree, yeah, you don't know what somebody might be going through some awful stuff, and should they be bringing that there? No, but nobody's perfect. But you're right, there are people that will just do it just for the sake of doing it, and maybe it's attention, or I don't know, maybe it's their own insecurities. Who knows? It's hard to tell, but yeah, it's and that part I think is something that I most certainly struggled with, because it's different than it is when you're just talking to somebody face to face, or even like you and I are right now. Like, that person's typing something in chat or throwing something in a comment. I can't hear their tone of voice. I can't see body language. I don't know what's going on. They could have very well been innocently saying something sarcastic and I just didn't catch it. Or it could have been the other way around. And you gotta pay close attention, but they also, I think sticking to your convictions is probably the best course of action. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know. I think just like in general, like being a person on the internet, like whether being a viewer or a creator, like just being like, it's really important to be conscious of how you may come across to other people. And like you only know so much about someone that you're watching. Like, you have to have some sort of balance. Like, I'm pretty transparent and open with the people that come into my chats and stuff, but I can't tell everyone everything, and you just never know what someone's going through and how your words can impact them. And I think that it's really, really important to be mindful of your language, and a lot of people on the internet aren't.
True. Yeah, there's a sense of awareness that isn't really there oftentimes, unfortunately.
True.
So was streaming, so you were streaming for like 3 years basically.
Yeah.
And specifically, I guess this would be specifically in regards to Twitch. So like how and it could be a bad thing, it could be a good thing, right? It could be either way, or it could be a multitude of things. But how do you think the platform has changed since you've been using it over the years? Like the biggest changes, I guess.
I mean, the first thing that came to mind was oversaturation.
Yeah.
I think the best way, if you're looking at it purely from a business point to know if you're going to grow on a game or not, is to find a game with a high liked or followed count, but a lower viewership. So if you look at your average, I don't know, for example, Don't Starve Together. That's usually a really good game to stream that I had streamed. Or Ark also. But like,
Yeah,
I
there's
go to
the community for Ark is very dedicated. I've seen.
right. So if you look at Ark as a game, you see that there is 5.4 million followers, but only 3.1K viewers right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get put in the first page, or hold on. So looking at me, who's average, frequently averages in the 20s to 30s when I'm consistently streaming, I'd be on like the 6th line. So that's fairly easy for someone to find me visibly, right? But then you go to a game like Apex, for example. That 6th line, you're still looking at people with over 200 average viewers.
Wow. Yeah, so picking a game that's heavily followed but not heavily viewed is probably a smart call. Yeah.
I mean, 18th line still in the 50 viewers. So like you get the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that like Stardew, for example, is always a good one. The second line is people with almost 30 viewers. Don't Starve Together is 1.2 million followers, 1.1K people right now. So the second line has people in the 20 viewers. So like there are games that you can play that aren't overly saturated. But I think probably the most successful thing, in my opinion, right now is to find one of those games and try to be the best at it. To be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think perhaps years ago, and when I say years, I probably mean like maybe like 4 to 5, maybe 6 years ago. I think that's when you started to see more of the people that it was more personality, right? Like that definitely kind of, and it still plays a part in it now, but I feel like it was kind of more heavily focused on it then. So then all of these other people started streaming and creating content, which kind of led to this oversaturation. At least from the outside looking in, it kind of seems that way. Yeah. So I think you have to find something else to use to stand out, and getting really good at something is going to be the way to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to be good at video games, using quotes, to be a good content creator. And I think that that's a common misconception. And that goes in both directions. You can be a really good player at something and not succeed because you have a shit personality. Honestly.
No, you're right. I mean, that kind of it applies everything. That applies everywhere, though, right? Like you could be,
True.
the one, you could be like the best musician in the world, but if you're a piece of shit, nobody's going to want to hear you.
True. Yeah.
Well, to a degree.
But yeah, so I think that like how Twitch has changed is it's gotten super saturated, and then it's gotten super saturated and all these people are streaming, but one, it's summer, which happens every year, but also since since we're not on lockdown, people aren't wearing masks as much, like it's different now than it was. A lot more people are out in the world. So not only is this, as a creator, it is more saturated, but as a viewer, there is less. Yeah. So looking at it with both of those sides, it's a lot harder than it was a few years ago. I mean, if you're curious, because this is something that Phoenix and I were talking about, and we went and we did Sea of Thieves Twitch stats.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2020, they had 61.7 million hours watched. And that's in 2020. The game came out in 2018. In 2021, they had 10.3 million.
Wow.
So that's from the first year of COVID to the next. And then 2022 was similar, about 10. And now we're 6 months into the year and they're at about 4. So it's still dropping.
Right, yeah.
But
that makes
from
sense, though,
almost 62 million to 10 in a year dropping. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, people are stopping playing the game because the numbers are dropping. People are not playing the game, and therefore the numbers are dropping on Twitch because of, in my opinion, the majority of the bugs and cheaters that people are just tired of.
But you also made a good point about, the pandemic, everything else going on.
Yeah,
there
and
was
that's
a lot
piece
of people
that don't think about.
that started and then didn't have anything to do, didn't have anywhere to go, and started watching all these things, and now they're like, wait, I can go back outside, screw this, I'm out.
Yeah, or like, I'm watching this person while I'm working from home, but I can't do that when I'm in the office.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I can't do that anymore. I'm going back in the office. Yeah. No, there was, I probably fell victim to that too. I definitely watched more. I was a little different situation. I was pretty much working the whole way through the pandemic, but there was definitely times where I had an hiatus and I was home for like a week or so, and I would definitely watch like Twitch, YouTube more often than I normally would. But yeah, I think probably any platform like that probably hit an all-time high during the pandemic, and then now they're coming back down again. It's just got to be stressful. It's got to be stressful. I mean, especially if you're trying to turn it into a career right now. I almost want to say the odds are stacked against you.
Well, and I would bet money that the overall Twitch numbers are down.
Oh, for sure.
Like, just as a whole, like how many people are watching other people on Twitch. And then they're having all of these competitions. They're doing things that are biting their own foot when it comes to like how they're changing. I can't even keep track of all of the stuff that they're doing right now.
As far as like terms of service or
yeah.
And
then they're adding the super cheer, which is something that they took from YouTube, which is like a donation that keeps your chat at the top of the screen for X amount of time.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But they take a 5% cut when you do it. And then there's like another thing too. Like the creator gets like 30% of it or something absurd like that. I can't even remember what it is. But they're like, they took away the 70-30 split for partners.
It's 50-50 now, right?
It's 50-50 for everyone. So what's the point of being a partner?
There's no point. You just have more rules and regulations you got to abide by. Like, God. I mean, I honestly, I got frustrated with that with the YouTube thing too. The like, okay, so I think it's a little bit easier on YouTube. Typically, it's like 70-30 with YouTube, but I mean, did they really need a 70-30 split on this? And ad revenue is only going down as far as YouTube goes. Like, if you're trying to make content on YouTube in the gaming industry, like that pays the lowest CPM, the lowest. If not, one of the lowest, if not the lowest, as far as any other sort of content you can create on YouTube right now, which is part of the reason why I turned monetization off. I said, you know what? I don't give a shit. Like, you guys see enough commercials everywhere else. I'm not putting them up here. Like, I walked away from that, but it can be definitely hurtful, especially if you're used to that 70-30 split. And then all of a sudden they told you, no, it's 50-50. You're probably like, okay, why the hell am I even here?
Right.
That's
well,
insane.
And I mean,
the two have to coexist. The platform has to understand that it needs streamers. The streamers need to understand that you need the platform, right? Like, the two have to coexist. And I think in general, most companies need to pay attention and support their streamers a bit better than they do usually.
True. I would agree with that.
And it's a shame because I've seen and met people on streaming that I really thought had a lot of potential to be bigger, And I've went back and seen them over the years, and I went, damn, why aren't they there yet? Like, they're doing everything that I could think that they should be doing. Like, and then eventually you hear them, and they're just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it's just a grind. And I don't know. I do think that that's one of the downfalls to a lot of these, especially the bigger platforms, is I wish that they would spend more time investing in the creators that are working on their platforms, because that's ultimately how they lose people. You know,
well, and I mean, yes, but also, like, for example, Sea of Thieves with the 10,000 viewed hours required, there have been partners that have stepped down because they have said, like, I'm playing the game when I don't want to play it, when I'm burnt out, and it's impacting my community, because in order to keep my partnership, I feel obligated to continue to play even when I'm not having fun. And that's happening.
Yeah, it's I was talking to this guy Buddy, probably like the second one of these that I did. Yeah, the second one of these that I did. And back in the day, like, companies would pay you to beta test games. They would pay you to do these things because they knew it needed to be done. And now it's kind of like it's like this weird privilege status. I'm like, that's weird. You're the game developer. Like, shouldn't you be figuring this crap out anyway? Like,
right. Well, Sea of Thieves, you get cosmetic. So I don't know. The insider program's kind of weird to me in general. But so basically, like, you sign an NDA on their website, which gets you a game code to get the game. And if you play it an hour a week, you get cosmetics associated with that. Gotcha. That you can use in the main game. That's kind of like a flex, like I'm insider.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And like some weeks, like, I don't know, you get different things. And some of the stuff's cool. But I mean, in order to get the cool stuff, you have to spend a lot of time. But then the problem is people will just sit in there and use an auto clicker for an hour and not even test it.
Oh, God. So they're just going in there and using a bot so they don't actually. Wow. Okay.
So how many people are testing the game isn't even happening. I never did that because, I mean, auto clickers are bannable technically because it's, I mean, I don't know.
Not only that, but it seems like you had a genuine passion to see the game go places.
Yeah, I did, but yeah. Like, it makes me sad. Like, I used to play it every day or, like, multiple times a week. And, like, right now I might be playing it once a week, if that. Like, and, like, I was playing it before we got on this call. And I ended up being a shitter to the last fight that I was in. And we ended up hiding all of our supplies on the island and then, like, sinking our own boat because we didn't want them to get our supplies, and because they were being toxic, calling us a bunch of names, and they were either cheating or an alt account, not sure. Their name was definitely not a main account, and they only had 2 in-game days played, so it was a brand new account, so either they weren't playing fair or they got banned for talking the way that they were talking to us, so they had to make a new one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, that just stuff ruins the game. Like, it makes it not fun. Like, that and the bugs, like, let alone all of the partner stuff and all of, like, what they're doing with their game. The fact that it's just so clunky and people don't play fair, like, those 2 things make people want to not play the game anyways.
Yeah, I walked away from Ark for a lot of reasons. One, because I got burnt out with it. Because kind of like you, it was like that's all I was doing all the time, every time. I'm like, I'm not having any fun with this anymore. But there were times where I see the business decisions on the back end, and I'm like, I don't really want to be a part of that. Like, I see the constant, especially with Ark, there's definitely lately very much seems to be pulling some attention to chasing a dollar versus making quality content for people that are playing their game. Yeah, for sure. Now, I think Ark does a little bit better with, like, the community as far as like supporting the people that play their game. I think they do a good job with that. Like the community crunches that they put out and all the newsletters and things. I think they're much more involved with the community to a degree. But same problem with the bugs, though. I mean, that that game's had bugs since the day it came out that haven't gotten fixed.
Part of why I stopped playing is because I couldn't. Like, I cannot have private games.
Yeah,
I can only play on community servers. I make a private game and I play on it once, and when I leave, I can't get back into it. I get fatal errors.
Well, now they're gonna re-release it on Unreal 5 and expect everybody to pay for it again. They're literally
you have to pay for it again.
They're gonna re-release the same damn game on the Unreal 5 engine, and that they're gonna charge everybody. So originally, what they tried to do, because I think that they shot themselves in the foot with this Arc 2 thing. So they bundled them together. So you were going to pay for this Arc Ascended version, and then it was going to have a bundle of Arc 2 inside of it. And everybody was like, wait, you're going to make me pay for a game that's not here anymore, and then you're going to make me repay for the same game that I've paid for and all the DLCs that I've paid for over the years. And a lot of people got mad, so they swapped it over now so that Arc 2 isn't a part of that. But yeah, they're still doing the same thing with when they re-release it on Unreal 5, that they're going to charge everybody for it again.
That's strange.
Well, I mean, I think inevitably it was again a crappy business decision, but I think that they had to push Arc 2 back, so they had to do something to stay relevant. So they decided to do this instead. And yeah, I walked away from it for that. I think there was some PvP issues. I never really played PvP on Arc too much. I never really had any interest. But
I heard some not great things.
Oh my god, yeah. But there were some changes to that lately that were really messed up too. Apparently, yeah. I haven't. Yeah, much like your Sea of Thieves experience, I don't really touch it too much anymore. I actually haven't even turned that game on in probably months, 4 or 5 months, maybe.
Well, I had a lot of friends. I did a poll. Just because I was curious, a Twitter poll, because why not?
Yeah.
And I did a Twitter poll a few weeks back. Well, and the other thing is a big problem, like from their side, like as a business like owner, I look at people's business decisions probably differently than like a typical content creator, I guess.
Makes sense. No, that makes sense.
And a huge issue is they keep putting out single play content. They're spending a lot of time and money on putting out content that someone would only enjoy one time and not be interested in going back to. And so like they have this whole like in-game mystery that's like a storyline, and they have this like mystery going on, and their numbers are down across the board.
Yeah.
Because you play it once and then you're done.
Mm-hmm.
But the question that I put was, do you still play Sea of Thieves? And it got like about 300 votes. And the options were regularly, occasionally, rarely, or I uninstalled. And only 42% said regularly still.
Wow.
So 29 said occasional, 19 said rare, and 9 said I installed. So there's a good 30% of people that either uninstalled or rarely play the game anymore out of this 300. And I know that that's like just like a little bit, but the majority of people in my community or in my sphere are people that play it sweaty, like they play it for those fights. And that shows that it says something.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think there's, at least lately for me, there seems to be a disconnect between a lot of developers and game studios and their audience. And
absolutely,
I don't really, it seems like some games are just trying to cater to a bigger audience now. Like maybe a lot of them started off specifically in one avenue, and then they kind of expand it. They changed the mechanics of the game that kind of killed their niche people to hope to appeal to a bigger audience. And then there's other ones that just it's minimum effort, like it's just whatever they can do to get by, and then they ignore all these other things going on. Like me personally, I found personally for me that the majority of the time lately I have more fun and interest with small independent like video games than I do anything like Grounded, anything coming
from. Did you play Smallland?
I have it downloaded. I tested it out for a little bit. I haven't really had too much time to jump into it, but yeah, I was worried that it would be exactly like it, and then it's really not.
No,
it's really not.
It's so good. The bosses are crazy.
But I'm having much more fun looking at games that are made that way. than I am more like bigger studios. Like Forever Skies just came out. Been messing around with that. That one's kind of interesting. It's kind of like raft survival, but you're
Raft
in
is
it,
fun.
right? But you're on like an airship floating above the sky.
Oh,
And
wait. Say
yeah,
what that's called again?
Forever Skies. You're like
Oh.
you like build an airship, like the apocalypse
Nice.
things happen, and there's like this weird plague and bacteria on like the surface of
I've
the earth, and you're
seen
kind of going
this.
across. Yeah, it's that it came out, and you can get it now, and I've been messing around with that for a little bit, and that's been pretty cool.
It's $25. Is it worth it?
I mean, so far the problem is right now, at least I don't think there is. I would almost say, especially for somebody like you who I think enjoys more multiplayer and playing with your friends more
Yeah.
often, I would say hold off because I don't think they have a multiplayer option yet.
Okay. Yeah, but
the indie games, like, to me, I don't know. I think they're more connected because they kind of forced to be because they're smaller and they need to get out, so they're kind of forced to stay on top of things. I don't know. For me, my experience lately has been that.
I was playing some Coral Island. I only played as much as I could until like I'm waiting for the new updates or for like more content because it's a new game. But I loved because it had a pride flag at the city hall in the town. They have players that have like one arm. They have Muslim players. They have like characters in the game. Like they have they have a monk. They have a gay couple. They have someone with stretch marks on their stomach. Like all of this like stuff that you don't see. Like all of the characters look like people versus
like, yeah, they're like real people that you see walking down the street
exactly.
and not something popped out of a comic book. Yeah.
Right. Sure. And I really love it.
I'm sure that appeals to a huge audience, actually.
Yeah, and it's newer and it's smaller, and I've enjoyed that some, but I'm just I streamed it a couple times, but right now I'm just kind of like waiting for them to put out more stuff for it to feel worth it, because I don't want to play it once and then like play all of the content that's there.
Yeah, and then get bored.
Not have anything, and I don't know. But I was really interested. So Gosfather is like a bigger Sea of Thieves streamer, and he made a Twitter post at the beginning of May that said partners are leaving, partners are being removed, new partners are made, people are leaving the game or taking breaks. Are we seeing a shift in the creation burnout? Is it the games or are the issues personal? And someone that I have, like, I'm not a huge fan of their content personally, but they did reply to this comment very eloquently. And they said, I could care less about the partner program or what they do with it. If anything, it's done more harm than good over the years, and I'll leave it at that. In regards to the creation, there are only so many things that can be stacked and stolen and tucked on, and only so many guides to be made. They don't add much to the game. The exciting bits are the player interactions, which are becoming increasingly rare. Being a creator that's been present since the beginning, the year one was magical. Updates were monthly, fixes came out quick, development updates weekly, pressing issues from the top of the brass. It was great. Fast forward to now, we have drawn out seasons, mixed updates forced with quality of life due to long-lasting issues, and more things of this nature. The game isn't new for a lot of folks. 5 years is quite the milestone for a live service game, and that is something to celebrate. But at this point, I personally expected the workflow to incorporate new and fresh ideas that aren't just adventures or a season pass, because that's not it. And the combat feel more fluid, not a jittery mess like it does. And we haven't gotten that in a while. If you compare Sea of Thieves to other live service games like Rust or No Man's Sky, when new features are added, this game is just a major oof. It feels like it's 3 steps forward and 6 steps back.
Yeah, it's almost like the reverse of something like No Man's Sky, that when it released, it bombed, and now it's like incredibly popular and a really fun game. And because it almost seems like the other way around. Yeah, clearly they're listening. Well, I think they realized when they first released it that they did not deliver on all the things they said they were going to deliver on. So rather than just walk away from it and wash their hands, they knuckled down and produced what they said they were going to produce, and even kind of took it a step further. So I think that's the mentality of a developer that makes a game that I want to follow around and that I want to play with. And I think the older I get, the more I pay attention to those business models and less about sometimes less about the actual game and more about how are these people acting with this game? How are they treating it? And if they're not going to take it seriously and put work into it, why should I? You know?
Right. And that was part of it, is like, why am I spending time promoting something that at my core I don't feel like aligns with? And if you want to stream and you just care about the games, that's fine. Like, that doesn't mean that you don't have morals or like whatever. Like, I'm not going to come at someone for, you know, playing what they want to play. But like, for me personally, I have trouble supporting people that I don't feel like aligns with me morally.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense.
And I think that that's shown in my community. And I mean, you look at, what is that game that everyone plays right now? It's like Hunt Showdown.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, their partner program includes people getting monetary compensation for people signing up under their name.
Damn. There you go. That's how you get people to sign up.
Right? You want people
Money
to promote
talks.
your game. Exactly. And money does talk, and then you look at it too of like, what are you going to give someone to make them want to promote your game, right?
That's a number one thing that would motivate somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's obvious.
Like, drops are cool, but
that should be in addition to some other shit, really, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I don't know. If I developed a game and I wanted people to promote it, I think number one, I would want to be listening to them. Like, and I would probably like create like maybe a monthly Zoom call with all of the creators and be like, what are you seeing this month? Like, and ask them. And like, because that's how you be better, is to listen to your community. Because if you're giving them what you think that you want, like.
Yeah, there's times where we've seen, I mean, I'm sure you agree with me, like the amount of early access that comes out now compared to like 5 years ago, 10 years ago is like completely different. And to a degree, I kind of like it, right? To a degree that you could have that game beta tested, tweaked, and possibly broken in and out by a massively larger scale. Like you're going to get results of your vulnerabilities and your shortcomings a lot better than you would if there was 5 people testing it out. But the problem is that I don't think they necessarily, and when I say they, I mean particular places, but it seems like particular companies aren't really paying attention to the things that need to get fixed. Like it's more early access to get people interested in it than it is for people to actually fix the problems.
Right. Absolutely. I would agree with that. I'm curious now because you say that, and it made me think of 2 games that were really crazy at the beginning that I played in the beta, and then I uninstalled and haven't played since. So one is called Scavengers. Everyone was playing Scavengers, and I wonder if people are even playing that game anymore. Did I even spell that right? Did you hear of that? Do you remember that game?
Scavengers. I've heard the name.
It was a battle royale.
Yeah.
Last played in May of 2021. I don't even see it as a category on Twitch.
So nobody's paying attention to it.
I mean, I'm sure it is because I know it has been. Like I know that people. Like I know, like people streamed it. Like all of the Apex people were like early release playing it. I don't see it. But then the other one was Vampire: The Masquerade.
Yeah.
Blood Hunt. Like a bunch of people were playing that. Do people play that anymore?
I don't
Only
really know.
230 total viewers. Yeah. So those are perfect examples of everyone was playing it before it got released, and then very few people play it now.
Yeah, I was looking at Scavenger, and yeah, it looks like, I mean, it's like free.
It's free now?
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong game.
But it has like a blue background and a white S.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong game. I could be looking at the wrong game. I don't know. At any rate, I do agree with you, though. I feel like sometimes this happens. It's so weirdly inconsistent. It almost makes me wonder if they're doing it just to get money for the early access and then they bounce out or some shit.
Ooh.
Who knows? Who knows?
That'd be a spicy thing.
Wouldn't it be? Well, there's definitely games that have tried to do it in the past. I mean, I don't remember a couple. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but there's games that have come out briefly through like Kickstarter or some shit like that, made a bunch of money, and then turned around and released a shit ass game. I mean,
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it sucks. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to.
Yeah,
I understand this might be a pseudo sensitive subject depending on what your answer may or may not be. So, and that kind of goes with anything. You can always tell me, put me in my place, tell me shut up. I'm not going to get well, my feelings will not get hurt. So,
yeah,
I have a feeling that as a woman, you've probably experienced some situations on the platform that a typical man has probably not experienced. And I was curious to know, as the first woman that I've had talked to throughout this so far, if there are particular challenges as a woman that you've experienced on here that perhaps may speak to a more woman audience who, again, kind of revolving back to what we talked about earlier, maybe people that are thinking about getting into content creation or simply kind of want to know a little bit on behind the curtain, I guess.
I don't want to sound bad answering this. From my experience, it has done more benefit than harm. I don't think that that's always the case. Mm-hmm. There are some people that feel good about them, or there are some people that enjoy gifting other people. That is what drives a lot of these platforms, are people that enjoy supporting and gifting people that they like watching.
Yeah.
And I think that being a female, that probably benefits me. But also because of how I started streaming probably benefits me too. And I know that wasn't my intention. But I mean, I was using a walker when I started streaming. I don't want to be the person with a sob story, but people take it that way. Like people, want to be generous when they know what kind of situation I was going through at the time. And I'm so grateful for everything that anyone has given. And I don't want it to be taken not that way, because I am. But I do think that probably inherently women that are at least like moderately attractive probably have an upper hand than men, regardless of their appearance.
So, and maybe, and again, I could be completely talking out of my ass, but I mean, I'll just call a spade, right? I feel like there's instances where a woman's going to get, who is attractive, is going to get and sit in a hot tub and sit in front of a stream, and that's what they're going to stream. Which at the end of the day, I have the mentality of, if you're not hurting anybody or breaking the law, do what you want to do. I don't care, right? Like I just don't. I might not like it, I might not be involved in it, but do what you want to do. Like, it's not my life, it's yours. But I feel like in doing so, sometimes that there are women who don't want to do that sort of thing, have an audience that will sometimes come, not necessarily a routine audience, but will have people come into that sphere or their environment and have that expectation and pitch them a little shit because they're not. Which wholeheartedly, I put 99% of the blame on those assholes that are doing that, by the way, just to be clear.
No, I think that because, like, I am always in a t-shirt or a hoodie. Like, I am very intentional about what I wear when I put myself in front of a camera, when it comes to streaming or creating clips or posting stuff on YouTube or whatever it might be. I have a partner. I have had a partner since I started streaming. And how my relationship works is that kind of stuff is sacred. And I have a different respect in my relationship than some people might have. Like, I recognize that every relationship is different. But how I choose to have my relationship is I don't wear things very revealing out of my personal beliefs of respect to him in our relationship. That I don't want that to be misconstrued if I think it's wrong for other people to have other ways of relationship, because I don't. But that's just how I choose to live my life. And I make it very intentional and communicate with people. Like, it's not a secret that I'm in a relationship, and like, it's very clear that like no one's going to be shooting their shot at me. And so that might have prevented some of that harassment that I hear some women experience. And don't get me wrong, I've had that happen to me before, but I'm also very quick to shutting something like that down, or I can see through that, and part of that's the thick skin. And I'm very quick to nip that in the bud, you know. And
I think it's very beneficial to keep that same level of conviction that you have in your normal day-to-day life when you move that over. I think I wholeheartedly agree. I think because you've been able to do that and kind of take charge of that, and it's like a seamless transition between, you know, Allie when the screen's not on or Allie when the screen's on. It's a seamless transition, so it makes you're setting the tone very quickly, I think, which probably has helped you out a bit.
Well, I don't stream to play a part, and I know a lot of people have like their stream then versus their off stream then, and that's exhausting for me. Like, kudos to people that can like switch and be who they think their content create or people want to watch. Like, everyone can do whatever they want, but like for me, it's a lot easier to just be, you know, transparent and have integrity and just, you know, show what I'm comfortable with sharing with the public. And just having that to, you know, like my line is my safety is really what it is for me. And like where that line is, you know, what is primarily sharing personal information. And that's really where that is. But like, other than that, I'm pretty much an open book for people. But because he's like not the biggest like wanting to be on camera kind of person, I think he's kind of like become this like, I don't know, like mysterious, like kind of like a running joke of like, oh, we want to see the mans, and like he'll like peek his head in like very rarely. Like, it's been like 3 or 4 times, I don't know, but like you know, he shows it and everyone's like, whoa, you know, like I think
it's super interesting because with me and my wife, she is definitely the more extroverted social person. I am not, yet I'm the person making content, not her.
That's funny. I'm definitely more extroverted than him.
Yeah. I think you need that in a relationship, though. It's probably important to have that yin and yang to it.
Yeah. There's a lot of yin and yang with us. Like, I'm definitely like glass half full and he's half empty. So like we kind of like balance ourselves out, because I'm like too optimistic sometimes, because like I always want to see the good in people, but sometimes I get blindsided by that.
You need somebody that'll throw a little bit of realism in
there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not heavy, but enough to keep you grounded. No, I think that's
but I mean
other way around though. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I've absolutely gotten sexist comments, and I've gotten, you know, comments on YouTube or TikTok or, you know, stuff in my chat. And I usually just delete it if it's like on a YouTube or TikTok, because and it's not to hide anything. It's just that I don't have space in my mind to let that be in the world. Like, I feel responsible for if this is something on my content that I am allowing more negativity into this world if I don't do anything about it. So I'll just delete it. You know, like on YouTube, I've had someone like comment on my weight before, and like, you know, when I do personally deal with body grief, since I used to be I'm not the same after my stroke. You know, when you have to learn how to walk,
Yeah, I imagine
like
that. Yeah.
there, and you know, that's a sensitive subject, but like instead of letting it get to me, I just deleted it. You know, or like, you know, on TikTok, someone was like, "Oh, that wasn't really impressive. That was, you know, that was pretty mid." Like, whatever. Like, okay, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm not like gonna go and delete every comment of someone that's not impressed. Like, okay, this content isn't for you, then that's fine. Move on. You know, but if someone's being hateful, then I'll just get rid of it. I mean, stream or otherwise. And I think that it's just finding where that line is for you of what you're comfortable with. But especially since my stroke, I'm very intentional about who I let in my life and in my circle. And if someone isn't building me up, then I don't have the room for them to be there, and vice versa. Like if someone is, and building me up doesn't necessarily mean growing, but more so of like if someone is there to tear you down, they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, there's a difference between constructive criticism and just being destructive just for the sake of being destructive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I would argue that the people that actually care about you are the ones that are going to give you constructive criticism. The ones that don't, those are the ones that are going to be usually pretty destructive. But I like, and it very much seems like talking to you throughout this whole time, it very much seems like that's like your very common thread of, I know who I am and this is what I'm going to tolerate and what I'm not, to a degree, right? Like, you know, what you're going to let. So it's consistency, I think, is really what I'm getting at a lot of this, and just sticking to your convictions of what you think is right and wrong. And oftentimes, I would argue that oftentimes people, especially streaming and creating content, can be swayed in one direction or another because they think a view or a like or a comment is more important.
I think what's more important is for people to respect you. And I think that people respect consistency. I think that, like, for example, I sunk someone that was a well-known streamer in CFDs at one point. And when we went in to the chat, I was going in to say GG's. I saw that one of their moderators were calling his names. They weren't slurs. They weren't necessarily cuss words. There was someone somewhere on that gray area.
Yeah.
Not nice words.
Right.
And I was just like, I just left. I mean, I hadn't followed them. I didn't really watch them. Like, I knew who they were, but like that really rubbed me the wrong way of like, this, you're letting your mods talk like this and you're just like allowing this kind of hateful banter, and like that's everything that I don't want to be. Like, I don't know, like, yes, growing is the goal. Like, yes, you want to make it, like, ideally you want to make it a career, but at the same time,
but
like, do you want to be so big that you can't, at what cost, that you can't moderate the way that you want to, that like you have to let go of some of those boundaries potentially because otherwise you'll let it consume you.
Right. Well, the boundaries are important inherently. That kind of makes you who you are as an individual, though. It is those boundaries and how you enforce those boundaries, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
So, I mean, that's the complicated part. I mean, I love streaming. I love the people that I've met along the way. I want to continue streaming. It's really challenging for me right now, for a number of reasons, like we talked about before, but also like I'm in the middle of a new build, and once I have that new build, I'll be able to not feel limited. Because like even some first-person games, my computer can't handle streaming and playing at the same time.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So like it can handle playing them just fine, but streaming at the same time it can't. So I'm in the middle of a new build. I should have it done in the next few weeks, hopefully.
Cool.
They're expensive.
Yeah, you ain't kidding there.
I have everything but like my GPU and a few other things. So I'm like, I'm over halfway there. But then what I'm using now will be my stream PC. So like I won't have to deal with it. I could even stream COD if I wanted to, which I've never been able to handle
Nice.
streaming. So that'll be interesting, but like, I don't know. I think that when I return to streaming consistently, it will be variety, because otherwise I'll get burnt out. And if it's not variety, it'll be like a story game that like there's an ending and then I start something else.
Got you. Like a clear cut. This is where it ends. Let me move to the next thing. Yeah, I think it's probably a smart idea too. Yeah, it's almost easier with that.
Game, you get tired of it.
Right. Yeah, and it's easier with something that has a blatant ending to it. Right. That's the end. Yeah, but a lot of the, especially now, there's like so many like open world, never ending sort of storyline games that you could play from now until the end of time.
Well, I started to Chia when it came out, and I played it once, and it was so fun, but my computer and stream was struggling the whole time, which sucked. And like the graphics looked like shit because I had to have everything on low to get it to run, which is crazy because I don't know, you'd think that it'd be fine, but it wasn't. So like I would love to finish that, but I don't know. I think that it's not for the faint of heart, whether that be emotionally, time, and the odds aren't in anyone's favor, really, unless you have a shit ton of money or you're best friends with Tim the Tap Man.
Yeah, I can see where that could help a little bit.
Turn that into a quote card. Like,
yeah,
but like,
yeah, but you're right. Yeah, the odds are stacked against you. Everybody else, there's a vast majority of people are doing it, and the longer it goes on, the harder it is to have some sort of unique idea or a unique way of doing things to make you stand out in front of anybody else. You know,
right?
It's an awesome environment because there's a level of freedom, but only to a degree if you're trying to get to a certain level.
Yeah. Well, and I have that freedom. Like I own my own business. I work from home. I walk on my treadmill while doing my work for hours a day. Like I can leave and go get lunch and no one can tell me otherwise. Like I already have that freedom. Mm-hmm. So that freedom for maybe nothing an hour is really hard right now.
I bet it is. Yeah. Yeah. If you already have it, yeah, that's gotta be. Yeah,
like I'm not gonna share how much I make, but it's definitely more than nothing an hour. I
would hope so.
And I can tell you off stream or off video if you're curious. But like, I do love it. I do enjoy it, but also it's very tiring too. That's another thing. Like people don't realize it's like talking for that long and engaging with people and like. As an empath, for me, it's a lot emotionally sometimes too. Oh, that's another boundary that's important to have. Like what emotionally you let people share in chat.
Yeah, because
like
that can get dumping. Because that can get heavy. Yeah, I'm not anybody's therapist or psychiatrist. I'm not a professional with that. There's a degree where I'm like, you need to talk to somebody else, not me.
Yeah, well, there was this big thing that went around a while back. I don't know if you saw. Are you active on Twitter really or not necessarily?
I mean, touch and go, really. Yeah. I probably should be more active, but I'm not.
Valid. Well, because there was this thing that went around where like some partnered streamer someone like came into their chat and said hi, and they were like a VIP, like they had been there for a long time. They said hi, and they were like, oh, so and so, like, where have you been? And they were like, oh, well, my mom died or something like that, so I've been taking it easy and I don't know, like haven't been on Twitch much or something like that. And they replied, well, that's a whole big bucket of bummer, and keep that the hell out of my chat or something like that.
Wow.
And they got put on blast for it of like, and then they went on this whole rant about how they shouldn't be trauma dumping in their chat and like how they've been there for a while, so they should know better and blah, blah, blah. They should. And they were like, if someone asks you how you are in a Twitch chat, there's 3 answers. There's either I'm good, I'm all right, or I'm getting through it.
Oh.
So that went around Twitter not too long ago. I guess it's maybe been a month or two, but like that's another thing is like having the boundary of like what you are and are not comfortable with people sharing, because it does get exhausting, and there is a difference. But like you have to have some sort of compassion for people,
For sure, yeah.
That alone is exhausting, and not that you don't want to, but it's still it's still a spoon that you're giving. Like it's still something that you're sharing with other people.
Yeah, and as the audience gets bigger, that could potentially just get that pool could just potentially get larger. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something to keep in mind. Like if you're an empath and you don't have solid like emotional and like barriers, then streaming might not be a good fit for you.
No, I agree.
And that goes with the thick skin too. Like if you easily feel the pain or the agony of other people, like streaming can be really hard.
I think so too. So we're getting close. Wow, we're getting close to like 2 hours. I always lose track of time when I have these conversations, which is probably a good thing. That means I think good things are happening.
You're not just watching the clock the whole time,
right? Exactly. So one of the last thing I would ask though, and this is a reoccurring thing, like if you could like just snap your fingers and you're at that end goal of what you would have hoped to achieve on Twitch, right? Like I assume you might have some sort of end goal in mind, perhaps. And if you could snap your fingers tomorrow and you were there, what would that look like to you, like for you?
Don't really have an average viewership in mind. Enough income to pay my rent. Not feeling burnt out, like having some sort of something in place that worked, and then someone else doing my audio.
I can relate to that last part. Oh,
or the funds to be able to pay someone to do all of my reels and all of that for me. That would be nice to not do any of that stuff.
For sure. No, I understand. Yeah, as I think as you strive towards that end goal of whatever that is, there's just more and more requirements, like what you're saying, like using all the other different medias and posting stuff all over there and being present everywhere else. It can be a lot.
Yeah, it really can. Yeah, I think that really like I've never thought about what my goal was. Like my goal was growth with good people. And more than minimum wage. I guess. Like if you're talking about the financial piece, like
oh no, it could literally be anything.
Yeah.
Anything that you would want it to be. There's no really when I ask that, it's very open ended. Like it's very frameless for the most part. Like I've talked to some people and some people have said it's financial. Some people have said it's just a matter. I just want to build a cool place and hang out with people. I mean, it can be different things for different people, I guess.
I think not saying something financially would be ignorant. I think that regardless of what you're doing content creation wise, there is some sort of monetary goal, whether you admit it to yourself or not.
I agree with you.
I think that that's like an awkward thing that people like don't want to talk about, or it's kind of taboo. But it does make a difference, and it is important because money is a motivator for everyone. I don't care what you say, like it just is. But I also think like for me, like a goal is a community that I'm proud of that does sustain my values to an extent. Like obviously everyone's their own person, but that like an honorable community that's loving and inclusive and supportive to one another. And I don't know.
I think it's a pretty good idea of it. A pretty good summary of it, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, man, I think I asked that question to everybody because I don't really know what the hell my answer would have been. Like I just don't
yeah,
know. I just don't know what that answer would have been. Probably something pretty similar to that, like where something where we'd pay the bills, you know, and then just not a group of toxic dumbasses. Like as long as something of that was going on, I think I probably would have been okay.
yeah. I mean, and I've never been a person that's like driven towards being rich. Like that's never been my mindset of like I want to have a lot of money. Like I've always just wanted to be comfortable.
Mm.
And like what that looks like in my head is just not being paycheck to paycheck, like having some sort of buffer and being able to do what I need to do to continue to be comfortable. And aside from that, I just want to be happy.
No, I can understand that.
Easier said than done.
It really is.
But
it really is.
Streaming is just way more complicated than I feel like people give it credit for. Like I think that there's a lot more involved emotionally, financially, community wise, like ethics. Like there's just a lot more that comes with it than people give it credit for, or that people realize unless they're in it or they have someone close to you that is.
For sure. Yeah, I think from the outside looking in, it's real easy to just assume it's just turning on a camera and playing a game. Like
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I think it's real easy to look at it that way, which is kind of why I wanted to talk to people doing this, because I feel like maybe maybe to kind of spread that out a little bit more. So
yeah,
people know this.
I hope you didn't mind the random controversial topics that came up.
No, I genuinely have like a couple of questions that I think I would just pretty much ask to anybody.
Yeah.
And then maybe a couple that are specifically aimed at who I'm talking to. But the majority of it is just I like being able to let the conversation just go wherever it goes. I feel like it's a lot more organic that way. And it doesn't feel forced when I'm able to do that.
Yeah. I tried to be eloquent when bringing up the more controversial things.
No, I get it.
But I mean, I guess like one more thing that comes to mind is that in some ways, if you let it, streaming can be like high school. And people don't think of it that way. But like, there are some really shady people, there are some really immature people, and there are some very selfish people. And if you don't know any better, you can easily become a part of a group of people that you're not pleased with or proud of. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that have the mindset in the gaming or in streaming community in general that if someone is built up or being built up, they're taking from someone else. And that's not the case. There's plenty of people and love to be spread around. And I think it's really important to not let your ego take control of you when you're streaming. Because if you do, you and the people around you are going to have a significantly more unpleasant time.
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference between ego and confidence. Like,
yeah,
I think confidence is knowing what you're capable of, what you're not, what you can do and what you can't, knowing yourself exactly who you are. And I think ego is sort of like confidence, but disregarding all the negative.
I agree.
So it's important to know the difference between the both and to have a level head on your shoulders. Yeah, for sure. Well, I will let you go because this has been a little while.
You're fine. I've enjoyed talking to you.
I have enjoyed it too, but yeah, definitely thank you. I know we kind of had some schedule conflicts here and there with things being just crazy busy, and my weekend turned out to be a lot busier than I thought it was going to be.
You're totally fine.
Yeah,
I am more present earlier in the day, so this worked out.
Perfect. All right. Well, I am actually going to. This is probably actually going to come out tomorrow on YouTube. So
Okay.
we look forward to that, and I will shoot you I'll DM you the link when I throw it out there, so you have it too.
Okay. Yeah.
All
Cool.
right.
I'll throw it. Throw a Twitter something or other because that's primarily where to find me right now. So
Fair enough. And we'll
Thank
have
you.
links. Yeah, we'll have links in like the description to your Twitch and stuff too. So if people want to stop by
I
and say
appreciate
hi.
that.
But if they're jerks, don't tell them it wasn't me. I didn't do it.
No, definitely not. It was not you. But I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
Well,
And
thank you.
feel free to reach out and catch up anytime.
Absolutely. I need to be more active in that. I've actually found like since stepping away from content creation, I've had like a little bit more free time, and that free time usually gets like immediately filled up with other stuff. House projects and stuff with the kids and everything else. And
dude, housework is, people do not realize unless you are like, I don't know, I guess a little apartment versus a house, like
homeownership sucks.
We don't own, we rent, but like it's a decent sized house and there's just two of us and I'm the one always at home. So
but there's always something.
Yeah,
constantly.
There really is.
It's
There
a
really
never-ending
is.
list.
I'm just like, I'm over here like, we need to wash our curtains. Like just so many little things that you just like don't think about.
And that isolated thing doesn't sound like it would take that long, but when you combine that with the 57 other little things, you're like, okay, I can't get anything done today.
And I have OCD, so that doesn't help.
That's not gonna help either.
I cleaned the house for literally like almost 5 hours yesterday, and then I added 3 more things to the list that I noticed when I was doing it.
Oh boy.
But,
well, again, I just wanted to say thanks. I really appreciate it. And
of course.
look forward to seeing this soon.
Yeah.